Hey guys, it's me. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about my 18 and 2 Ryzeal Blitzclique deck list and the sort of theory that I had with this deck list for the post Chaos Origins format. So now that all of the WCQs are over, um, with NA, EU, and Oceanic all over, and KT having fully dominated NAs with 7 out of 8 in the top 8, I believe, being KT, and also even winning EU. I want to talk a little bit about why this deck is criminally underrated, in my opinion, and why this deck can do things that no other deck in the format can really do, and why it's well positioned, in my opinion. Um, so yeah, to talk about that first, let me give you a little bit of a rundown of my thinking of why I decided to pick this deck up and play this. Going into the format of the WCQ format, I was actually testing branded. I wanted a deck that would be good into KT, Killtune, because I expected it to be the most represented deck in the WCQs everywhere. It's a deck that can play a lot of hand traps and can play effectively into the 10 or so decks that are currently meta or like on the border of being meta, like meta relevant decks, let's say. And it's very hard to prep a side and a main deck with non-engine slots for this wide of a format. There's three main categories of decks. There's KT, Killtune, the big dog, the quote-unquote best hand trap deck. Um, there's the decks that beat it in a 1v1 theoretically matchup, like Striker and Branded, the spell slinging decks. And then there's decks that started approaching in the last like month and 2 months, um, which beat these spell slinging decks' dominance and have started like sort of encroaching on that territory. These are very combo heavy, and occasionally the extremist version of them are FTK decks, like the Power Patron decks, the pure Power Patron deck, as well as the Archmage deck, as well as um, trains and Teller Knights to a much lesser meta relevant extent. But it's the same theory, using FTKs to beat high branded and striker counts in Swiss, high spell slinging counts in Swiss. Um, a lesser FTK version to a lesser extent of these are Elf Note and Doom Z, which set up basically FTK endboards, uh, especially Elf Note, but also can do this while playing a lot of hand traps. So because of these three categories of decks, the KT, the decks that beat KT, and the decks that beat KT, the FTK decks, um, KT is better into this third category of decks that are trying to FTK you because of the enormous amount of hand traps it can play, as well as just being the best hand trap deck. It can utilize the hand traps the best, both in engine as well as it can play some of the best hand traps like Harmonia. Harmonia was a must in my opinion. Going into this WCQ because of how good it was against KT going second. It was one of the only hand traps that felt like it was doing something through rotary look and threatening before rotary look sometimes, and could actually like skip KT's turn or at least make them end on a much smaller board. It was the only like one hand trap that I felt like was doing that, which was not a charm ray. So taking all of these thoughts, around about 2 weeks before the EUWCQ, I decided to test Blitzclique instead of branded. Um, I know that I was not the only one. I'm not the only one who plays this deck. Actually, this deck has seen enormous amounts of success in the Genesis format because of how broken the cards read and play in that this weekend. Shout out to Richard Sheba, the Genesis UWCQ champion, a friend of mine. Very happy that you did so well. Shout outs to you. Um, but that theory of how good, like how overtuned the cards are for Genesis, can also be applied to the main event if you just build a little bit separately. If you build with cards like Harmonia. I know that aside from me, also other people like players in the Workers Elite team like Lorenzo Muselli and Luego Ganzelli are also testing this deck on both Fallen and Ryzeal variants. So yeah, And this deck, functionally in the matchup spread, what I was trying to do is beat Killer Tune and Branded. Additionally, it has around about the 50-50 Elf Note matchup, 55 to 45 if you play well and your opponent plays a little bit underwhelmingly or doesn't know the Blitzclique deck as well, which was happening to me most of the time. In testing, as I said, I went 18 and 2, 18 wins, 2 losses in tournament experience, and I was undefeated in Elf Note in testing against Elf Note in testing. I went 3 and 0 against Elf Note in real results. Against Branded, I was 6 and 0, and against KT, I was 7 and 1. The deck plays not only engine cards that are very good at pushing going second, but also turn zero hand traps that play in a very Vanquish Soul-esque playstyle, where they do not they basically choke your opponent with advantage if they play into Charmies, and can potentially, just like Holy Su Fire Dark, very much high roll your opponent straight out of the game, especially against decks that require their bodies like Killer Tune and Branded. So that's why I wanted to test this deck. Anyway, without further ado and without too much yapping, let me show you the deck list and I'll go a little bit more in depth into the choices I made. Oh, sorry. Let me talk about my my matchup spread in the EUWCQ and how it went. So I ended up being going 6 wins and 3 losses, 6 and 3 in the main event, which is not great. I know, it's fine. That's how I would classify it. It's not good. I would say it's fine. I played 3 Killer Tune. The first one I lost the dice roll. I won 2-1. The second one I lost the dice roll. I won 2-0. And the third one I won the dice roll. I won 2-0. I played 1 Branded. And I lost the dice roll. I won 2-0. I played 1 Branded Rolad. I won the dice roll. I won 2-1. I played 2 other Rolad variants. I won 1, I lost 1, and I played a Striker and a Malice as well. So the thing is that this deck has a very good time into decks which activate monster effects on the field because of Harmonia, obviously, but also Crackle, which is just 3 additional card plays of Harmonia which you play in your engine. And with decks like Mitsu, like the Mitsu Roulette version that I lost to, that is one of the bad matchups. But that was a knowing risk I took because I didn't think it would be represented at the EUWCQ and it wouldn't be a meta matchup, at least not tier 1. And I wanted to build to beat Killtune, Killtune Branded Elf Note really convincingly, and then Rolad was a bit of a worser matchup, but against Azamina at least, the Crackle and Harmonia were still insane on Diabell Star, and the Lynx. So it was still fine, like the most represented version and the best version in my opinion, Azamina. The deck was fine against just Branded and Mitsu variant, Rolad variants were a bit worse. Anyway, the deck list, I played the minimum Ryzeal package. I played X'd 2 Ice. Excuse some of the proxies. I had to return some of my cards because I didn't manage to get them in time for the main event, and my friends were nice enough to lend them to me, but I had to return them. I played the 5 Ryzeals. They're limited in semites, so I had to play them at these ratios. But yeah, the fact that you can search Sword in this deck with the trap is crazy. These cards were insane. Like X'd, when people are not prepared for X'd, really blows half boards out of the water. I won like an insane amount of games with X'd into half boards, like into Charmery half boards, just because they cannot or do not play around it, rather. I played 1 Bonfire and 1 7 Tachyon. These 2 used to be Foolish Burial Goods, but I wanted to cut as many bricks as possible. This is one of also the benefits of Blitzclique. Like, yes, it is a 2-card combo deck, but you gotta realize that not every deck needs to be seen. Like, a lot of people tested this deck and then realized the deck was not a 1-card combo deck, and then discarded it as being too slow or too useless. But you gotta realize that there's different types of good decks. This deck does have only 2-card combos in the Blitzclique part of the deck, but for that you get very high quality interruptions, very premium interruptions. It's like Vanquish Soul in the fact that it doesn't have the 1-card combos, but it gets very premium as soon as you control the card economy. You overwhelm your opponent and they can never really get back in the game. And so because of that, for to fix the consistency, I wanted two cards that were good, both going first and going second, as my last two cards. And I decided to play Bonfire and the 7 Tachyon in these slots, without playing any bricks like a second alternator for the Foolish Barrier Goods. I also decided to play this instead of Terraforming because the field spell alone does not play. You always need a second Blitzclique to play with it. So if I was low on card economy and playing like a simplified game states against my opponent, I wanted a card that would just get me X'd. And since this and Terraforming both play into draw anyway, I decided to play this because this gets me into X for simplified game states. Then for the Blitzclicks, I decided to play 3 Surge, 2 Grain, 1 Emmy, and 3 Whisker. Relatively standard, except for the 2 Grain. I decided to cut one of them down because I realized in testing you don't really need it that much. Also, I was expecting a lot of Rollat, which I did play. Like it was the deck that I played the most against. If they just sit on the Ritual monster, Grain is completely dead. So I didn't want starters that don't even play. Even though theoretically going first this is better if you see a trap than Surge. I just wanted to see more combinations with Surge because this also is much better with Crackle. You can special this out of Crackle. That's the thing. That's something that I think also people don't realize about this deck, is that this deck, you don't only need to special the Thunder that you're activating. You can special any Thunder. You can special the other name to make your combo crazier and search something better later. Or you can special even Ryzeal, for example, or Sword Ryzeal to search an X and start your turn off with X, if you're activating Crackle. Yeah, these cards were insane. I think Whiska is like one of the most underrated cards of this year. This card is like Holy Sue on steroids. It's Holy Sue Fire Dark when you can resolve at turn 0, but you don't need to reveal your hand. You don't need to reveal to your opponent what you're specialing out of your hand. You can pop up the 3. Yes, you can just keep all of the cracked cards in your hand without revealing them, and then just say this, bam, against Striker, pop all of their back row in the end phase. You FTK them. Against Branded, you Charmy them or you Harmonia them on Ecclesia Synchro, or you crack them on Ecclesia Synchro. They go their usual half board of Retribution plus Fallen Virtuous plus Ecclesia, which is really hard to beat for most decks. You just go Whisker and end phase, destroy the 2 back row, or all 3 even. Bam! It's insta game. Even if you only pop 2, you check the Ecclesia with the Monster Negate. This card is incredible, and it's very underrated in my opinion. And 3 Fin Spell and 3 Breakaway. These cards are mandatory. This card is the best Blitzclique starter. And even if it's a 2-card combo, it gives you a body to pop, which is very important sometimes in the going first lines. And the fact that they recur each other, like recur itself, is really nice. And this card is insane as well. Like the card quality of the card is insane. There's like so many game states where, even though this deck should have a bad Rollout matchup, what I did is I went like normal summon Crackle because I couldn't use it in their turn because Rollout doesn't really play into Crackle or Harmonia. I just normal summoned the Crackle, and then I went Search, target their Dark Magician Ritual monster. They have to bounce it. They do the 9 shuffle bounce, and then the Mind Shuffle is exposed. You chain Breakaway, bounce the Thunder, bounce the Crackle or the Sword, whatever, and pop the Mind Shuffle. So your cards that shouldn't be good into Rollout are performing insane, like with Engine. And then I played 1-1 on each trap. I do know that like while I was testing this deck, there was a big debate about how many traps you should play. People are playing anywhere from 1 alternator to like 2, 0, or they're playing like 1-1 like I'm playing, or I know that Lorenzo Muselli and Diego Ganzelli on the Workers Elite team were also testing like 2-1, but I just feel like I figured out in testing to make the rollout matchup a little bit better. This card is super good against the Ritual spell and against Branded as well, like Branded Fusion. Your deck really only has pops, so sometimes, I mean, that's crazy. You overwhelm people because of the amount of pops you have. You're around 7 pops each turn with your interruptions, because even when your board looks really small. But against cards like Branded Fusion, when they start playing, you can't really pop Albion because that doesn't do anything. And then if they make like that actually pluses them because it sends Albion to where they want it to do the grave. And you can't pop the Mirror Jade because it's already too late. They can trigger it with like they can use it with Prio, banish one of yours, plus he triggers an end phase, wiping your field. So this card not only protects you from the wipe from card effect destruction against like FNV and stuff on your Whiska, but it also is just really great against Branded and Rolad in those matchups I figured out. So I decided to play in the main. It was amazing. Like Return Stroke was amazing. You can also, a lot of people don't know, Alternator doesn't have to shuffle back a Blitzclique monster. It can shuffle back the trap or the spells too. So you can recur the breakaway after you've used it. You can place the Alternator. You pop something. You recur the same breakaway that's already used because it's once return. You shuffle it back. So you just shuffled back. You got like 2 uses out of the card. You made it a starter, and then it was also a pitch, a discard for Alternator. And you can also shuffle this back if you draw it and you're breaking on it to turn it into a name basically and start playing. So it's really not that bad. And yeah, you can also search in fringe cases. You can also search sword off of this while shuffling back something like this to search your Ryzeal engine, which was really nice as well for me. I did that a few times, and this is what I think is the biggest advantage of playing Blitzclique, my non-engine lineup. This is, I would argue, probably the strongest non-engine lineup in the format of any meta deck, I would argue. And this is what I think makes Blitzclique really strong. This is what I figured out. In the Ryzeal variant, people are not playing enough non-engine. They're playing like 30 starters. The deck doesn't need that many starters because you're already breaking your opponent's board anyway. So what it needs is non-engine so that you can have consistency going second as a going second deck that overwhelms your opponent. So I decided to play the best non-engine lineup of the format. I decided to play 3 Fuva, pretty much mandatory, self-explanatory. 3 Purulia. I was testing this anywhere between 1 and 3, and I know that people are playing this as 1 and 2 anyway. But I decided to put the third in because just like Vanquishal, this deck really threatens your opponent. If they don't know you're on Blitzclique and give you like the 1 or 2 draws for Trackmaker plus Remix or like Q plus Trackmaker, and start letting you draw, going second, this deck is a 34 card deck. These cards are just like draw cards, which means that there's a lot of venom. Like the mathematical chance of you drawing Crackle plus Whiska and FTKing them turn 0 is really, really high, like Vanquish Soul. But it's also better because you don't have to show them the hand if they're not playing KT, like Vanquish Soul. So they don't even have an opportunity to play around it. When you reveal your monster, they will not know about it, which is why I decided to play this. And also like the Rise of Rolad. I only drew this like twice, but it was good every time I drew it. And unfortunately, I didn't draw it much in the main event. Fuva is really nice, obviously. Like I think like most games I Fuva'd, I won going second. Then Ash. This is something that I saw more people are now playing, but we're not playing before on Blitzclique. It's just a really good card, not only going second, but also going first. Like into Rollout is pretty good going second, and Branded, but it's also pretty good going first. Because sometimes like you just like through hand traps you end on a half board of like Whiska plus Emmy plus like Breakaway. So you have like around 4 pops, and then just having a card like this, which you don't need, which trades like very well with the last card when they're trying to bait out your interruptions and let their last push resolve, is very nice. And also this this was great for Ash and Purulia as well. Purulia is like basically the only non-engine in the format which this deck cares about, as well as Ogre. But Ogre is mostly in the side except for like maybe 1 in the main in Killtune. So yeah, Purulia is like the only non-engine in the main that this deck really cares about, and for that, this was really good. And aside from that, there's still, so these are 9 hand traps, right? I play 6 high impact cracks and Harmonia, and then the last card in my deck is a Shifter. The theory of these 6 and these 7 are all the same. If my opponent ends on a half board, my engine with both the Ryzeal cards and the Blitzclique cards is strong enough to push through any half boards. Every time, essentially, my opponent ended on a meta half board, I was able to break it. And that's why you can make the compromise playing Shifter as well. Yes, it does conflict with X specifically, but it plays with basically everything else perfectly. Whiska bounces a lot of stuff. Return Stroke bounces the names as well. Like you can even shed up Shifter going first after you've like played your entire combo out. because the spells just return themselves back to hand. Shifter is that less of a problem. So yeah, this is 16 non-engine, and every time they let you draw, or even if they don't let you draw and you just happen to draw the Whiska with crack, turn 0, you have 19 non-engine. 18 cards that play, 18 engine, and 19 non-engine is, in my opinion, like the strength of this deck. This is how this deck should be played, in my opinion. Also, crack plus Harmonia is also crazy because you can crack and then Harmonia and then dump the trap, and you've essentially outed like 4 cards, as well as search to follow up with the trap. You search your best starter to the field spell. There's also like card combinations like crackle plus surge plus Harmonia, where you go crackle, and then you special the surge and you Harmonia, and because you pop the card, surge searches you the Whiska and you resolve your full turn 0. Crackle plus Whisker combo. It's really insane. I think this deck has a very high skill expression and skill ceiling. But yeah, if played well, it can definitely break a lot of boards going second. I played the 104 for 7 Tachyon. In terms of extra deck, yeah, this card was good. Like, I only played the 1 Tachyon, so I didn't end up playing Giant Hand. I could see playing Giant Hand in the future, but I didn't really need it. I wanted to play more flex spots. Then Detonator, Dugares, Exiton. These were all 3 really, really good. Like, going first, these were incredible. I mean, Detonator was always incredible. But Exiton just threatening with their Ryzeal bodies means that, like, if they know that you're on Blitzclique and try to save their hand traps and their interruptions for Blitzclique, they just get blown out of the water by Exiton. So this card was really good. Then in terms of the X targets, I played Twins, Aggregator, Valon. These are standard. Then I played one more, Officiator of Doom Samuel. This is a card that like came on Blazing Dominion and not a lot of people know about, but I think it's quite interesting. It says if it's dumped, if it's sent to the graveyard, you can target any card in either graveyard, shuffle it into the deck. So this card was really good. The use cases of this card is really good into like Fallen and Virtuous decks, and like Branded, for example, just shuffling back the fusions, and shuffling back the follow-up. So yeah, it was quite nice. I used it once, I believe, and then I for the last 2 of the XC's toolbox, it was Baguska and Typhon. This was in testing. It came up a lot against rogue decks, and also going first. Like if you were put into like weird situations, ending on Baguska Detonator, like if you drew no Blitzclicks even after Dugares, was really nice and really broken in my opinion. It never came up for me in the main event, so honestly, like, I'm considering cutting it, but yeah, I mean, I'm convinced the card is not that useful, but I would have to see. Typhon is for KT. There's some situations where if you draw like 2 hand traps and you feel like you can buy a turn with like Whisker Crackle or Harmonia Crackle or like any combination like Ash Harmonia, and you feel like against KT you'll live the turn as long as you out their threats right now, you can just normal summon anybody and put Typhon over it, and you out the Zelan Remix board if you have a tuner in the graveyard, if the Remix is 3k, or the Remix B2B board with Typhon easily. In theory it was good, it never came up for me, so I can't tell you how good it was, but the theory is, in theory it was supposed to be good. And then this was 10 cards, so I only had room for 5 Harmonia targets. I wanted to, I actively knew I wouldn't be able to pop with the second Harmonia, but this is just a concession I had to make while making my deck list, especially because Harmonia is something that like not all Ryzeal deck lists are playing. I know that like people might be like, but Praket, how are you playing Harmonia in the Ryzeal deck list? You just need to be hyper aware of the locks. Like I think Harmonia is so good in like this format that you have to play it anyway if you can. But in this deck, it's even more broken because it pops, because it says destroy on the card. So it's a must include. And you can play in the Ryzeal version, even going second. You just need to be wary of your locks, especially because of this card, Second and Punisher. This card was quite good for me. Like I'm testing summoning this card a lot, and in the main event, I summoned this twice. And against a KT, I harmonia'd. And then I had like a sword. My opponent forgot that I was only allowed to use synchro summoned effects. So I normaled sword just to search follow up, and he ashed it. So I just baited an interruption out of it, and then he let it go through, like he didn't do anything on res, and I just made an unaffected psychic him. He was trying to chill on remix, so that I couldn't like, because he looked at my hand and he saw surge was my only way to destroy. So he was trying to make sure that I just never had a monster to pop for surge, and resolve it. And I just made this, and when battle phase forced his remix, and then he had to commit the body, which I surged on and then won the game. This card was good. This card was good. I wouldn't cut this card. Maybe next time cutting the Blueska was the play, just to play a 6th synchro. I'm not sure what it would be because there's not as many targets like the branded version of this deck. Maybe Omega would be the one I would play, but I'd have to test more. Anyway, onto the side. Something else that you might notice is I don't play Fallen Virtuous, which might sound crazy in a popping deck, but I just wanted to play like more. I wanted to respect the combo decks and roll that way more. And FFNV is fine into like some variants of Rolad, but in the versions of Rolad where they're trying to set up like unbeatable boards, like the Asamina version where you're trying to set up like Ilya Sylvia Abao, next to like a co-linked firewall SP, and Dark Magician Ritual, you're just not beating that with one Fallen Virtuous. So that's why I wanted to play more hand traps, and I went, and the theory that was the theory of it. Then for the side deck, I played for 3 going first cards. I played Called By, Judgment, and Ryzeal. Called By was broken against Perulia and all the hand traps. Don't need to say more about this. Judgment is broken as always. This also says destroy, so it triggers your surge on the field and any names on the field, which is crazy. And Ryzeal was Ryzeal. I was debating cutting this card, but in theory it's good because you can search it with alternator. Like you can do this combo where you crack on your opponent's turn, and then they say okay, and then you chain your alternator, shuffle the crackle back, search a Ryzeal, and special the Ryzeal from the hand because the crackle can special any thunder. So you pop and then just set up a Ryzeal without your opponent ever expecting and having any information or read on it. So you just lead out the Ryzeal and pop the monster. It was good, but I didn't do it that much. Like I was never in a good enough game state, and if I was, I would have. I probably I already won by that point, so I never got to resolve it. To draw, just hitting all the variants of the format. It was pretty good. Also pretty good into Rolad, depending on the variant, and the Mitsu. Ogre also for Rolad, pretty good. It also hits branded like pretty well. And if there was any Doomsday matchups, I also wanted to cover this. Although Doomsday is like relatively free with this deck because of just Harmonia and Crackle destroying Drastrius anytime he wants to be activated, or Ilara rank up. Like that deck really gets destroyed by Blitzclique. And then 3 Lava Golem 3 evenly. This was for Rolad, but also for the Power Patron deck. I wanted to respect it a little bit more, so I played these slots. Theoretically, you could also play this against Rolad. I didn't side it that much because I felt like I had enough good hand traps. But as a breaker, like even if you tribute 2, people might be like, oh yeah, but this is, how could you side this against Rolad? This is a level 7 or higher monster. They can bounce it to summon the Rogue or Witch. Well, yeah, but then they're giving you back Lava Golem, so then you can Lava Golem another 2 of their monsters. It's fine. I think you can play this or Santa Claus. You can play any kaijus you want. Like, basically does the same thing as Rolad. Importantly, it's good against Power Patron, which is why I played it. Last card, Duster. This was pretty bad. This Duster's become much worse than last format, especially because of Rise and Accusation in the format, and I only really sided this like once, and I think against Striker. Anyway, yeah, that was the theory of this deck. You really like, you play the highest quality non-engine, and you have a very strong going second engine, which can also set up like 9 pop boards going first, which are completely enough. Like you're not losing going first if you resolve your combo. and then it just has an additional benefit of being able to turn 0 high roll you with in-engine hand traps, which I think is very, very underrated and slept on. Um, so I just wanted to sort of share my theory on this deck, and even if it helps with like one person or people to start testing this deck and realizing that this deck might be a very well positioned meta um, counter deck, um, I would be happy that I would be happy that somebody benefited using my theory. It's quite unfortunate I couldn't prove my own theory at the EUWCQ and go further into Top Cut, but sometimes it is like that, you know. If I played more Kill Tune branded, I felt like this deck could have gone to greater heights. But yeah. Anyways, Yap session over. I see that this video is almost gone along for 30 minutes. Thanks for listening, guys, and I appreciate you watching. Have a nice day.